Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CBT podcast. I'm here with Ethan. I'm here with Rod, and today we're going to be talking about the best team in the entire NBA, the Boston Celtics, who in this offseason added Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari, as well as signed JD Davison and Mfiondu Kabengele to two-way contracts. So, Ethan, you're a Celtics fan just like me. How are you feeling about our offseason?
I'm feeling wonderful. Just like I said, what we needed to do was get Malcolm Brogdon. Now we got Malcolm. Now we got even a better bench, adding Gallinari. You just got to be blessed as a Celtics fan. I mean, what team is better than us? The Bucks? I mean, yeah, obviously Giannis. Other than that, who else? I'm not worried about the Heat at the end of the day because they lost PJ Tucker, which was, if you think about it, kind of an essential piece for them when it comes to their defense. So they lose PJ Tucker, and then you want to go ahead and talk about the Nets? I mean, I'm not worried.
All right, Rod, you're the world's biggest Celtic hater, as everyone knows. How do you
Yeah,
feel about this Celtics team?
world's number one Celtics hater, also America's truth dealer. And when I hand you that crack pipe filled with truth, you better smoke it till it's empty. And unfortunately, the truth is the Celtics had a very good offseason. They addressed their biggest need, in my opinion, which was two biggest needs, which was bench scoring, any type of bench scoring, not named Grant Williams and Payton Pritchard, and a true facilitator. They got both of those things. I don't really think that it will make as big of a difference as everybody, including you two, is hoping. But as a whole, it was a good offseason.
Okay, so you say it might not make that big of a difference, right? But when you were just in the finals last year and you won two of those games, the only difference you need to make is to win two more games in that season. And I think that's something that Brogdon especially will be able to accomplish. What concerns me about Gallinari is, I'm sure we're all aware, the Celtics had the best defense in the entire NBA last year. But Gallinari is a very, very poor defender. So despite the fact he'd be a good scorer off the bench, by the time the playoffs roll around, I think Gallinari may be cut out of the rotation entirely just because of what he lacks on the defensive end.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a lot of Gallinari come playoff time. I see him more as just a depth piece, injury replacement, give you some instant offense if you need it. Maybe, down the stretch, fourth quarter of a playoff game, everybody else is struggling. They bring in Gallinari, he knocks down a big three, but I don't see Gallinari playing 20, 25 minutes a game on this team.
I don't think it's going to be like a 20, 25 minutes type of thing, but I think he can hit more of like a 12 to 15 range, just come in, give you some scoring. Like you guys said, when they really need it, because JJ, you know as well as anyone that there's just some games where the Celtics just stink from three and they
Some.
cannot they cannot buy a shot at all. So having someone like Gallinari to just give you some instant offense, someone that's reliable, a veteran, like that's huge for the Celtics. In terms of him getting cut out the rotation, I can truly see it. I think he's not going to be like as much of a threat on the defensive end, obviously. But I
At
think his
all.
height, but I think that his height also may be able to kind of shadow all of his other deficiencies, basically. And especially in Ime's offense, where it's not you're playing one on one, you're mostly playing zone. I think it may not be as bad as people think.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the size to play at the four if they really needed him to, but I don't ever want to see him playing at the four. But you say they added he's the offensive key they added, right? That's what you're saying off the bench. But the reports have come out that there's another offensive key they added who's coming off the bench, and that's Malcolm Brogdon, who was a 19-point scorer last year. So by the time the playoffs roll around, we'll have the same lineup. They gave away no one in top 8 playoff minutes played last year, and they're just adding Malcolm Brogdon. So I think that's going to be the filler in that offensive gap that we needed. And as I've said before, Malcolm Brogdon is going to be the reason the Celtics win the finals this year. They're going to go 55 to 62 wins in the regular season. And the only team that I see stopping them in the playoffs is the Milwaukee Bucks.
No, first of all. Second of all, you just mentioned that they're going to win between 55 and 62 games in the regular season. Let me tell you why that's dead wrong. First of all, There is no way. I doubt any team in the East is winning 60 games. I doubt any team in the East is winning 58 games, just because there are really 6 to 7 teams that I think could win 50 games in a regular season. That's how deep the East is, not to mention all the play-in wildcard teams, the Nets, the Cavs, teams like that. So I don't think, especially with the division the Celtics play in, which I've said multiple times, the Atlantic Division will be the toughest division in basketball this year, especially now that we know the Nets are most likely keeping KD. I'd be surprised if any team wins less than 40 games in the Atlantic Division. So to say the Celtics, a 60-win season, a 58, 59-win season means you dominated your competition. And the Celtics last season, even if we ignore what they did post or pre-All-Star break, which they were horrible in, I think they were 23-18 at home, 23-18. That was the Raptors, but they were not exceptional at home or on the road, is what I'm saying. They really didn't excel it. At home, I believe they were a top 10 team, but it was like 7th or 8th. So to jump from a good solid 50-win season 51. To you're saying the upper echelon of 50 and maybe even 60 wins, I do not see that as a possibility.
I think something that you're failing to remember is that last year the Celtics started 18-21, right? That's not good. Not even a playoff team in the West, probably. But then they started figuring out their rookie head coach's system, Ime Udoka. And once they did it, they finished 51-31. So, I mean, if they build off that momentum they had in the second half of the season in the playoffs, I mean, making the finals, no one expected them to do it, especially not you. So I think your hatred is blinding you from just how good this of an offseason this was for the Celtics. They addressed their biggest need. They have all the pieces in place. All that's left is stay healthy and just execute. That's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day.
No, definitely. I definitely agree with you. And another thing that I'm really looking forward to this season is that since we gave up no one basically in our top 8 rotation, it's going to be just plugging in Brogdon and Gallinari every now and then, and you still have the same exact team. But speaking of JJ, when you said earlier about bench players, I may be in the minority of this.
Oh, no.
We'll see how this goes. But I personally like the days when Smart was coming off the bench as that 3-and-D kind of player, not really facilitating, but doing all the dirty work that all the other players wouldn't do. I personally would like to see Brogdon in the starting lineup instead of Smart. I think the issue with that is I think Smart's ego in a way wouldn't let him go back to the bench. And then I think what's going to end up happening is you were talking about Gallinari getting cut out the rotation. I think slowly we're going to see Horford's role get diminished throughout the season. I truly think that even though he's getting paid all that money, I think he's just going to end up slowly throughout the season, like getting less and less minutes. He may still start the game, but he sure as hell isn't going to finish the game. And I think as you go throughout the season, it's going to start out with like 25, 28 minutes. It may go down to like 18 minutes a game. And I think they'll only pull him out whenever they pull him out into the game whenever they really need him. Like they need that defensive presence when Rob isn't on his A game. But I truly think that adding Gallinari is a way to kind of ease into the Al Horford, like post Al Horford game plan. So
I don't
Yeah, I
think
definitely agree
Gallinari-
with that. Well, personally, I think that Al Horford, there's been a lot of talk about who should come off the bench, Marcus or Brogdon. I think Al Horford is clearly the weak link of the Celtics starting lineup. I'd love to see a starting and closing lineup of Brogdon, Smart, Jaylen, Jayson, and Rob. You're a lot faster. I think the defensive rebounding, which was a huge issue for the Celtics, I think that would actually help to not have Al on there, because you talk about Tatum's quickness and strength, honestly, I think is just better than Al at this point. And how old is he now? 37, 36, 37?
37.
I think last playoff run might have just been his last hurrah. And I also want to mention the Celtics really did not suffer a single major injury in all of last regular season, which was pretty lucky when you looked at what else happened just throughout the league. And I'm not obviously wishing injury, but I'm just saying for a team to go 2 years in a row without a single major injury, I think is just very unlikely.
we
So-
only
Jaylen
deserve
Brown-
it We only deserve it though for what we went through with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward.
No.
Well, Jaylen Brown missed over 20 games early in the season last year, and Robert Williams tore his meniscus. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh
The Celtics
yeah,
had
the
their
Robert Williams.
the Celtics had their fair share of injuries. But I want to go back to what Ethan said earlier, because that was one of the most egregious things I heard in a while when he said Marcus Smart should be benched. Marcus Smart, let me tell you, Ethan, he was the defensive player of the year last year, the anchor of the league's best defense, the point guard of a team that went to the NBA Finals. And you're suggesting to just drop him back to the bench?
Hey, you don't have to sell me Marcus. I love me some Marcus
So
Smart.
why are you putting
You
him
know,
on the
whenever
bench?
he's a bulldog, in that defensive end, like, he's a great player and all. I'm just saying I love his role in the bench position. I loved it whenever he was coming off the bench doing all the dirty work that Kyrie wasn't doing or IT wasn't doing. Like that's just the kind of stuff that I love to see from Marcus. I think that's when he shined at his best.
Well, the difference is you just listed 2 point guards who are seriously lacking in defensive ability. Malcolm Brogdon is a great defensive player. Marcus Smart isn't going to have to cover for him.
I'm not talking about coverage. I'm just saying I personally liked Smart's role in those years, and I would like to see him be that player off the bench. That's just my opinion. I feel like him and Horford off the bench would Horford probably still stay in that starting spot, of course, but when Horford's minutes gets reduced, he'll mostly be playing with the second unit. I think Smart and Horford running that second unit instead of Derrick White running that second unit, well, in the past, and then I guess now Malcolm. I would like to see Malcolm in the starting position and Smart move to the bench. That's just me personally, because I feel like one thing over these years, ever since we moved Smart kind of into that point guard, not really point guard, but like that starting position, our bench has been useless. And it's been a couple years of that now. This is the first year going into a season where you're like, damn, the Celtics actually have a good bench now. So that's just my thing. I feel like Smart really carried our bench in the past, and I feel like that's when he was at his best.
So if we have a good bench, why would we need to drop Smart to the bench?
I mean, because I'll take Smart over Payton Pritchard. I'm still on the boat that we should have gotten Payton Pritchard out for Kuzma. I'm still on that boat. I would love to see that happen, even though it won't happen anymore because of our TPE. And then Derrick White, we already saw him try and run an offense, and he throws up some stinky floaters. So, I would like to see Smart go back to the bench. Like I said, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I can't say I agree with that even one slight bit. But one more thing I want to mention quickly, because we are running low on time, is that people are forgetting this Celtics team is still very young. Jayson Tatum's only 24. Jaylen Brown's 25. I think Robert Williams is 24 as well. So they're young. They could still develop, and they could just get better on their own, as well as adding these players to the roster who have established themselves already. And when you mix that all together, what do you get? One of these babies. You get a ring. Any final thoughts from you, Rod?
Yeah, a couple things. I think the Celtics are due for an injury, adding 2 injury-prone players and avoiding injuries all last season. I don't think they're winning anywhere close to 60 games. My prediction would be around 53 to 54. They're very inconsistent the regular season. I doubt they would finish in the top 2 seeds. And if they played the Sixers, Bucks, or Heat in the playoffs, they would lose.
Yeah, that's okay.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up before we get any more crazy. I'm going to thank you for watching today's video. I said you please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment. How well do you think the Celtics are going to do? How far will they make it in the playoffs, and why will they win the finals? Maybe they should just trade Tatum for Wembanyama. Who knows? Thank you guys once again for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.